The day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, I had a few people reach out to me and they're like, Ray, what do you think about Buffett taking a 10% stake in HPQ? And I'm thinking to myself, well, Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, one of the best investors in the world. I love Warren Buffett. I love going to his meetings there in Omaha. I mean, Warren Buffett has done a lot of things right. But at the end of the day, I want to put it in perspective, so I got to get on my Sharp Interactive board to do that. So let's talk about Warren Buffett, this investment, and what I think about it. So the first thing I want to do is let's pull up the headline. There it is. HP stock soars as Warren Buffett reveals a $4.2 billion stake. You're thinking, well, this is a lot of money. Warren's really, he's going big in HP. I want to put that number in perspective for you. Warren has about $147 billion in cash. I think it's between $147 billion in cash. $4.2 billion is like, what, a little less than 3%? That means if you're making $100,000 a year and you invested $3,000, it'd be the same thing. Okay? So Warren Buffett basically threw $3,000 at HP in his world. You got to put these in perspective sometimes, because you see that big $4.2 billion number, you get, oh, that's so much money. Well, to Warren Buffett, it's like $3,000 is to the guy that makes $100,000 a year. Just think about that, folks. But Warren Buffett's made some mistakes. He said he's made 15 mistakes. I was reading through these. I'm going to share one of them with you because it's very, very interesting in how it parallels, I think, with HP. But I believe that HP could be number 16. And like I said, I like Warren. But let's look at the mistake that he talks about up here that I think is a little bit similar to HP. Buffett explained that he first invested in Berkshire Hathaway in 1962 when it was a failing textile company. He thought he would make a profit when more mills closed, so he loaded up on the stock. If you look at the print industry, HP, we're not going to deny that HP has more units in the marketplace than anybody. They're the biggest in the room, right? So HP print is the biggest one in the room of a massively declining industry, okay? And so maybe Warren's thinking is, if HP can survive all of this and wipe out everybody else, they'll be the last one standing, but I can make some money off of that. The problem with that thinking, I think, is that every time they put a machine in the marketplace, and every machine they already have in the marketplace is declining in revenue drastically. And the problem is, even if they are able to displace the competition, everything they acquire will be declining from the day they acquired it, right? And all of their current base will continue to decline. And folks, all this nonsense about the hybrid worker that we hear HP talking about all the time, the hybrid worker, I still haven't seen a hybrid worker. I've seen some remote workers. And working remote means you get rid of print and scanning. That's the reality. Those things have to go away. Let's keep it behind glass, right? Let's keep it behind glass. That's where the information's born. Let's just keep it there as much as we can. And so if you're thinking about HP with their personal systems business and their notebook business, that's where all their growth has come from. It's come out of notebooks. Notebooks is over 50% of their revenue. The problem is notebooks, there's not a whole lot of profit. There's not a whole lot of profit. Let me pull up this slide right here. This is kind of interesting to me. And I've talked about these insider traders before, but I wanted to look again this morning, and I think this is so interesting. About 5 days ago, Enrique Lores, the president of HP, sold $1.2 million worth of stock. What does Warren see that Enrique doesn't see? And Enrique's been selling some stock lately, right? I've showed you the charts. But all these folks are selling their stock at the same time. I mean, I'm thinking of that number. Enrique's probably sitting there thinking, man, I could have got $4 more a share. I mean, what's that, about $170,000 mistake he made? But at the end of the day, folks, there's been a whole lot of insider trading going on here, selling up their stock, right? They're selling their shares. And so why is that? What does Warren see that the insiders don't even see? And folks, I go back to the notebook business. That's where all their growth's coming from, right? Everybody's excited about HP's revenue and all that. All that growth came out of the notebooks. Didn't come out of the print. Didn't come out of print supplies. But the problem is their first quarter for 2022, the units were down 6%. The notebooks revenue was up 14%, and the units for the notebooks was down 9%. So if it's all about the hybrid worker and it's all about all this nonsense about people need all these tools to work in the hybrid world, why aren't the units increasing? The only reason the revenue increased, and I talked about this before, is because the supply versus demand. They were able to raise the prices and deliver less, therefore affording them more profit. The problem is, they're not selling more units. Is the units going to continue to decline? And what happens when the supply gets fixed and the competition comes in? It really puts pressure on that notebook business, which represents 50% of HP's revenue. At the same time, the print revenue continues to decline. Remember, HP was going to disrupt office printing with A3. They didn't do it. They didn't do it. And so now that the industry's got slapped in the face with a global pandemic, end users realizing every single day that they don't need to keep printing, that they can keep information and consume information behind glass, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the stake that Warren took. I don't know what his thinking is. But at the end of the day, if you're making $100,000 and you invest $3,000, you probably don't stay awake every night or keep looking at the stock market to see if your stock went up. You probably don't care, right? Throw it in there and see what happens. And I'm sure that's probably what Warren did. I don't know why else he would do it. So just some things to think about, but put it in perspective. I want to show this one more time. When you got $147 billion in cash, spending $4.2 billion is like someone that makes $100,000 spending $3,000. Not a big deal. Don't get too excited about it. I look forward to seeing HP's second quarter numbers. We'll see how they're doing. But one thing's for sure, my friends. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.